Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. Happy Tuesday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at all of these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of all of these books. All of these books are due out in the direct market or book market on September 3rd or 4th, depending on where you get your books. And today we have a variety of just different collections. We have an Epic collection. We have a couple of the Saga books, which Marvel has been putting out from time to time, a Marvelverse book, and of course some new series and mini-series collected in trade. And as always, I do leave timestamps in the description of the video in case you're just curious about one or two titles or if you don't want any kind of spoilers. But before we go any further, please don't forget to smash that like button. That goes a very long way for us here on the channel. Very small thing you can do, but it does mean the world to us. Alright, let's go ahead and start today with the Marvelverse Scarlet Witch. Got a couple Scarlet Witch-centric books. Well, maybe. Marvelverse Scarlet Witch. By the way, I've always enjoyed these designs of the Marvelverse books with the black and white panels in the background from just different parts of the characters' lives. These are smaller size books. They are digest size books, meaning that they're a little bit smaller than your average trade paperback. And this one here retails for $10.99. And these are usually used, and I say usually, when a movie comes out or a TV show to get the people out there that are interested in the TV show or movie and want to read the comics. So sometimes they collect stories in here that are canon and non-canon, but for this particular collection, we do have X-Men First Class 3 and 6, Marvel 2 and 166, X-Men First Class number 9, Marvel Team Up 125, Doctor Strange number 60, Vision and Scarlet Witch number 5, Women of Marvel number 1. And sometimes it's just material from those particular issues. X-Men First Class is it's a choice. I love Jeff Parker's X-Men First Class. I don't think it's for everybody. See what I mean by material from. But it's just unique in a way that it's a retro series, meaning that it takes place in the past, but it was written in current day. And it's more about the relationship, or friendship rather, between Scarlet Witch when she was transitioning into a superhero and the X-Men, but primarily Jean Grey. And it's kind of an adorable relationship that they have together that we didn't really see anywhere else because, well, like I said, this is just like an afterthought. Like, hey, maybe we should have done this. Even Black Widow shows up through here. Also in a, well, I don't want to spoil what ends up happening. This is the Marvel 2 in 1 storyline by, of course, the legendary Mark Gruenwald. And this is the Serpent Crown storyline right here. Ralph Macchio helping with this. And this is when other characters guest starred with the Thing. And then, speaking of guest starring, Marvel Spider-Man, the team-up issues. And this is the one with Scarlet Witch teaming up with Spider-Man. This is the second time this particular story right here from Doctor Strange is collected in a collected edition this week. This is from issue number 60, and it has something to do with the Darkhold and Scarlet Witch, and I'll explain a little bit more when we look at that Darkhold Saga collection. We do have Vision and the Scarlet Witch issue number 5, which answers some questions about the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch's lineage. And then we have the Agatha Harkness story back here. And then this is the Women of Marvel. So just material from these particular stories and just showcasing a little bit about the characters and who they are. And it kind of let you know exactly what to expect from each of these chapters. Wanda helps a young woman reconnect with others. Yeah, that's it. This particular book, $10.99, and it has 120 pages. Star Wars Volume 8, The Sith and the Skywalker, or The Trial of Lando. Yes, because, well, you'll see here in a minute, if you have not been reading these particular stories of Star Wars, this is the Charles Soule run. Maybe minor spoilers as to what's happened previously, because this takes place after the Dark Droids event. We do have Charles Soule, Steve Cummings, Wayne Faucher, and Rochelle Rosenberg taking the top billing here. Clayton Cowles doing the lettering. And we kick it off with issue 42. So this does contain issues 42 through 45, and then material from Star Wars Revelations #1 and Free Comic Book Day 2024 Star Wars. Now, this book retails for $19.99, and it has 152 pages. So they give you a little bit of a background as to what Luke Skywalker has been up to, and especially after the Dark Droids event, he does come back to this particular planet with the looking for the Kyber crystals, and ends up running into Greta again. And this time around, he does have a different reason why he's here. He's managed to get a Kyber crystal. However, it's red, and he wants to turn it blue. Because subconsciously, or rather, not really subconsciously, he wants to help his father turn to the light side. He wants to show his father that there are still good people out there, and there's some good in him. And I thought that was a really sweet reason. Like, you don't see this, of course, in the movie. In the movie, by the time you get to the Return of the Jedi, you know what happens with, well, the story between Luke and his father. But in order for him to turn this Kyber crystal into the light side, he has to go inside of it. And this is where Greta's auntie helps out. This is Auntie Fees, or Auntie, I guess. Call her what you will. And Fees is going to help him go inside of the crystal. Inside of the crystal, we see this particular Sith Lord with other Sith Lords. And this guy is unnamed, but he does give Luke a run for his money. It's almost like he's living a day in the life. You don't know how long he's inside of the crystal. He could be days there, months, because time works a little bit different in there. While he's outside, both Greta and her aunt are watching over him. And this will teach him a few lessons as to what is possible to do with Kyber crystals. Now, the other part of the story is the trial of Lando Calrissian. So, because of the events that happened previously, I'm not going to go into too much details, really. He's actually in prison, right? He is about to face trial, could be executed because of something that he did for the sake of friendship. There are still people that believe in him. So who ends up representing Lando is this lady right here, Sai Giorgio, who becomes somebody like his representative. Now, amongst all this trial and everything that is going on with Luke, although Luke is back, there's also been a kidnapping. Someone has taken Mon Mothma. So now, I love the way that Lando delivers one of the best Lando Calrissian lines in the movies and on the TV show, or in the comics I've ever heard him say. And it's so badass, but it doesn't happen until the very end, and I don't want to spoil what exactly happens and who ends up rescuing Mon Mothma, but you can find out for yourself. But the way that Lando delivers this line is so freaking awesome. And of course, Lando is going to have some kick-ass moments in here. But if you haven't been reading this Charles Soule's Star Wars, nor the Darth Vader book, you need to do yourself a favor and check them out. This is the one that gets my pick of the week. This was an excellent story with some great artwork, and the characters really feel like they are the characters from the movie. And man, do I love this cast, and it's going to be interesting to see where Marvel goes with the next era of Star Wars. Whether it's, I assume it's going to be post episode 6, maybe in between episodes 6 and 7. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Not a lot of extras in the back, really. Just some of the toy variants here. And 152 pages, and again, this book retails for $19.99. Spider-Punk Arms Race. This is the latest Spider-Punk trade paperback. This collects Spider-Punk Arm Race 1 through 4. It has 112 pages and retails for $15.99. This time, Cody Ziegler is joined by Justin Mason and Maury Hollowell and Rico Renzi with Travis Lanham. Now, we are back in the Earth 138 with Hobby Brown and his friends. This time around, though, it's after the events of them taking down Norman Osborn, but Spider-Punk is now a very popular character in this particular Earth. But, along with his friends, they are about to face a new threat. So we do have Riot Heart here, Captain Anarchy, Daredevil, a little bit different than the Matt Murdock, and then Ms. Marvel right there. A couple of other characters do end up helping out through here. But this is his Spider Band, and the first thing that ends up happening in this particular Earth 138 is that we see T'Challa and Shuri of this particular world. But it is really Dr. Otto Octavius and Justin Hammer teaming up together to try to take down these kids and take over this world. Now that Norman has been taken care of, they feel like, well, now it's time to just easily destroy these spider folks. So what they're going to do is create a spider-slaying sentinel. So it's both of their forces working together to put these sentinels here. And now it's up to the band of heroes to go and take out those particular sentinels. I will say, as ridiculous and eye-rolling as it is, the ending of this stupid story really got me. I was actually cheering because it kind of reminded me of something that would happen in anime in the way that they deal with it. So, yeah, that was cute. I like that. That was cute. But yes, this is this particular world. This is Earth 138. Again, it is a different Earth than the one that we know Peter Parker from, the 616 universe. This was the same Spider-Punk that showed up in the second Spider-Verse series and played a big role in the movie, the Across the Spider-Verse movie. But this book has 112 pages and retails for $15.99. All the way in the back, we do have extras. And I love the extras here with the frames around them. There's some killer covers. I mean, whenever you have Spider-Punk as the character, though, you gotta, like, have some badass heavy metal type of covers, including some that don't make any sense because they're not part of the story. But that is Spider-Punk Arms Race. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That's the way I felt about this book right here. This is X-Men by Gerry Duggan, Volume 6. And I don't mean like, let's get nuts, like it's crazy bad. It's, man, do I have a task ahead of me. People have been asking me, when am I going to do the Reading Order of Krakoa? Well, we still have a couple more trade paperbacks to be released here in the next month or so. By the way, if you have not read the Hellfire Gala, if you haven't read the events of what happened with that attack, then there's going to be spoilers. Also, if you haven't read the Fall and Rise of Powers and House of X, there might be spoilers. Because this collects X-Men 30 through 34. It's the series that was launched in 2021 by Gerry Duggan. 136 pages, $17.99. But the way that it's written, by the way, I do need to give credit to the creators. You have Phil Noto and Joshua Cassara doing the main artwork. Color artists here are Phil Noto and Romulo Fajardo Jr. and then Clayton Cowles doing the lettering. So what I was saying is the way that this is written is to wrap up this series on its own. Issue 35 is not collected in here. Issue 35 is collected in that trade paperback I talked about last week. The Fall and Rise of House and Powers of X. This is written as a goodbye to a lot of these characters in this particular era. However, it feels like it's very important to know what's going on in the Rise and Fall, because there is something that is going on with Professor Xavier, a mission that some of these characters are sent on, and it feels like you're missing a picture. But in trade paperback format, it makes it really difficult to say, go and read that first, and then come back here. Or read this first, and then go over there. Because no matter what route you choose, something is going to get spoiled for you. And especially by the time you get to issues 33 and 34. And I don't want to say exactly what that is, because I do want people to enjoy these books for themselves. But it's just going to be a task. It's like, how in the world? I'm not going to tell you to stop reading issue 32 here. Go over there. Come back here. Read issue 33. I feel like this is where something like a mapping of an omnibus would be a blessing for a reading order. Because if you're doing that, then you might as well tell people, go and read the single issues. I mean, the monthly issues, right? It's the same kind of thing. Collected editions, to me, what the purpose of them are is to give people the best reading experience possible. And don't get me wrong, this is really good read by itself. But there are going to be some things in here that you're going to be wondering about. And when you go and check out exactly what's happening in that big trade paperback, some of those things may be spoiled. And I know I'm speaking in riddles, but I'm trying to avoid big spoilers for people in case they don't know how this era ends, because it is very important to a lot of people. This particular book, though, mainly focuses on the characters of Sync and this character, Talon, who, of course, is Laura, but it's a little bit different. She's a little bit different. And then we still have the fight between Nimrod and the rest of the X-Men that are still around. And this is when, like, the forces are being gathered, while Professor Xavier's doing something else. So you do have the High Evolutionary make a return here, and there's always consequences because of what's happened in the past with that particular character. There is a wonderful moment, yes, with Lockheed and Magic and, well, not Shadowcat, not Kitty Pryde, but Shadow Tiger. Yeah, sure. There's a magical moment here that I was like, oh, they get it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's kind of reminded me of those moments of New Mutants that Claremont would write between both Magic and Catherine. Oh, love them. And then, of course, you have some returning characters that have been out of the picture for a while, because the Stark Sentinels are still hunting everybody down. Cyclops has been arrested, Professor X is planning something, and everybody in this book is part of it, but they're only a small part of it. And I think that's all I will say about the book, and this reunion right here melts my heart. There's another moment that happens later on that I'm like, oh yes, Duggan gets it. Now, in the back is where you're going to find the textless covers, and then variant covers too. So this is the final volume. But okay, I'll just go ahead and say, I would read the big trade paperback, Fall and Rise of Powers and House of X. Just because even though it'll spoil some things in here, I'd rather you enjoy that and get spoiled than spoil the big thing that happens in this book. Then come back and read this. Carnage Volume 2, Symbiosis Necrosis. This is collecting Carnage 5 through 8, and the crossover with Venom, issues 31 and 32. This is another one, if you haven't been reading Venom, or if you haven't been reading Carnage, maybe some spoilers going into this, just in case. So we do kick it off with Venom 31. By the way, this has 136 pages, and retails for $17.99. In Venom 31, we do see Cletus Cassidy stalk this police officer who's the son of a police officer that he has previously killed. We see Dylan, who is now the host of Venom because his father's away, and I'll explain a little bit because I have to what happens here. He's trying to get a job. He's a young boy, but he's trying to get a job because he needs money. So he ends up getting a job at a warehouse where people are noticing, man, this dude is strong for somebody that's so little. And then he notices that something is going on. So it's also important to note that during this time, of course, Cletus is reunited with Carnage. He's no longer that god that we've seen in the past. He's just Cletus again, who's a freaking serial killer and a murderer, and with Carnage again. So I love the way that Torunn Grønbekk writes him, though, because he does question whether he is a god or not. So she plays with that angle a lot. By the way, this is written by Torunn Grønbekk. It's also written by Al Ewing, Ken Lashley supplying some of the artwork, and then Pere Perez doing the artwork for Carnage. Romulo Fajardo Jr. and Eric Arciniega are the colorists, and Clayton Cowles and Joe Sabino are the letterers. Ken Lashley's Venom just, so damn good. So, this is the first time we do see Carnage approach Dylan and trying to find out where Eddie Brock is. And Dylan doesn't know. Like, he's being honest. He kidnaps a church. I mean, there's some dark territory that's explored through here. And, he lashes out at him because he wants to know where Eddie Brock is. And neither the symbiote nor Dylan know where he is. And then things are awoken. Now, we get the same story, just told through the perspective of Cletus Cassidy. So everything he did, like kill the people in the warehouse, take care of those people in the church, all of it done through his perspective, and also trying to figure out where Eddie Brock is. We do get some answers here, or at least he does. He does get to see what Bedlam is and where Eddie Brock could be hiding. And he comes back with some more knowledge after that trip. And then, of course, we got to go and check out the Venom trade paperback to see what the new status quo is between Dylan and his symbiote, Venom. Now, that's just part of the story. The next part is this big fight against the anti-Venom character, which is, of course, Flash Thompson. This is also during the time when Liz Allen has symbiotic powers, too. But there is a new weapon that has been built. And Liz Allen has discovered this new weapon that could be a game changer for anybody that is possessing the symbiote. And that somebody is, of course, Carnage. And that leads into the big story arc towards the end here, and what it could mean for the symbiote of Carnage, and what it could mean for Cletus Cassidy. Now, this book has 136 pages and retails for $17.99. As far as the extras, not much in the back, but sometimes they are in between the issues. Like, you'll see variant covers in between issues, like so. Like that. Now, this book does set up the events of Venom War, which will be in the next trade paperback. And it is now that time of the video that I remind everybody to smash that like button, but also to check out all the spines of books coming out this particular week. So here you go. And now, let's continue with the overview. Darkhold, the Saga of the Book of Sins. Now, both this and the Saga of the Salem Witch, both of these books are saga books. And most of the time, the saga books, to kind of give you an idea, they're almost as thick as the epic collections. They're big, thick books that are collecting stories throughout the years of whatever they're focused on. Most of the time, it's a character. Like Agatha Harkness. This time around, it's a book. And what we're looking at today is the Darkhold book, the Saga of the Book of Sins. Now, that's not to be confused with the other collections that have come out, like the collection of the Darkhold. It's just called Darkhold. Or the collection of the 90s Darkhold that collects the 90s comic. This one is, I think, the one that's going to get most confusing because it's using the same cover. But, I mean, it's just her with the white background. But remember that this is the Saga of the Book of Sins. And again, the back of the book right here. So, this particular book does collect stories throughout the years of Marvel. From the first appearance of the Darkhold, hey, Agatha Harkness, love this piece right here, to the stories from Dracula Lives. So, it does collect the Marvel Spotlight number 4. Then that leads into Werewolf by Night, 1 and 3. And here are your credits for the writers, the artists, and your colorists, your editors at the time. Also collecting Avengers 185 to 187. I always love that saga. The Doctor Strange 59 to 62. And material from Dracula Lives, number 6. This book has 224 pages. And it retails for $29.99. So, at the very beginning, in these first few stories, we do meet the character of Jack Russell. This is right before Werewolf by Night ends up getting his own series. We see this character of Miles Blackguard and his daughter over here, Marlene, who will play a big part in this, and mainly turning people into stone. But part of the story is that the Darkhold has been held by Jack Russell's family in this castle, and now people want to get a hold of it. And he's heard about it, and he's finally able to grab it, and this Darkhold will keep coming back for these first few issues of Werewolf by Night. And the characters of Marlene and her father keep coming back here too. But a lot of it has to do with the Darkhold and opening up its powers, what it can do. And if it's in the wrong hands, it can make somebody, and I want to say soup them up, if you will, make them stronger, make their magic stronger. For example, in this particular story, we have somebody that's bringing these particular nightmares to life with his hold on the Darkhold. This is the attack on the Vatican, right here from the Tomb of Dracula storyline, or the Dracula Lives storyline, rather. And then we get the Yesterday quest, the Mount Windguard storyline with Mordred right here. And this is, I remember reading these when I was a kid. First of all, we got to talk about these amazing covers by John Byrne. They're just killer, man. Look at that. Just the amazing amount of detail. Oh, love it. Of course, I'm talking about John Byrne. That's a George Perez cover. But there are internal artwork here by the phenomenal John Byrne. This is the John Byrne cover. But this actually has ties to the Darkhold in that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver end up going back to Mount Windguard, and over there is where their origin is kind of retold. A little bit of retcon, but that's okay. Mordred kind of leads the way, and the Darkhold plays a part in this because in this storyline it is revealed that the Darkhold at one time belonged to Chthon. I believe that's how you pronounce that demon's name. And Chthon ends up taking over the Scarlet Witch. So, of course, now it's up to the rest of the Avengers to help her out. This is the story of Doctor Strange. I love this story. I've actually put it in my where to start reading storylines. It's freaking awesome because you got artwork in here by Dan Green, phenomenal Dan Green, with inks by Terry Austin. But this written by Uncle Roger Stern. This is when Doctor Strange is like, you know what? I've had enough. No more vampires. That's it. So in order to get rid of vampires and Dracula himself, what he decides to do is use the Darkhold to wipe away all of the vampires. And it's a big storyline, and of course, when you're doing magic like that, there's going to be ramifications. So a lot of characters in here get involved, including Scarlet Witch and Monica Rambeau, Blade, those particular characters. And then this is the finale right here. I've always been a big fan of that cover right there by Steve Leiloa. And then that ends that particular storyline. So what this is just giving you a small taste of what the power of the Darkhold is. I assume maybe because it might be in the Agatha Harkness TV show. $29.99, 224 pages. And speaking of Agatha Harkness, here's Agatha Harkness, the Saga of the Salem Witch. Now, this cover is by David Nakayama, but the stories in here, for the most part, are going to be about classic Agatha Harkness. And if you know anything about classic Agatha Harkness, she doesn't look anything like that. She's that old lady. She's like your Aunt May old lady. So in here is what's collected, including the stories by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, Steve Englehart, Len Wein, Ethan Sachs, Doug Mensch. But we do kick it off with her first appearance from issue 94, whenever the Fantastic Four finally named Franklin Benjamin Richards. And I love this moment right here when Ben just gets so moved that Sue and Reed gave Franklin the middle name Benjamin after him. I thought that was adorable. Oh, melts my heart every time. This is some classic Stan Lee and Jack Kirby stuff. Right before Jack ends up leaving the book. Anyway, so they need a babysitter, and who else better than Agatha Harkness and her creepy cat, Ebony? That's right. This is Agatha Harkness. But also this, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. So, in here is Fantastic Four 94, 185, and 186, 222 and 223, Avengers 128, and then Midnight Suns, SUNS, 1 through 5. This book has 224 pages and retails for $29.99. So from the very beginning, you see how powerful Agatha is by taking down the Fearsome Four by herself. Doesn't need any help. She's like, I got this, whatever. Then we see her take on Scarlet Witch to become her protege, if you will. She needs to teach somebody. She's moved on from Franklin. This is a few years later. And now she needs to teach Scarlet Witch how to use her powers. And I thought that's really cool that, now she has a mentor, if you will. That's during the Steve Englehart era. This is the return of the Fantastic Four, her back to the Fantastic Four, but this is the story by Len Wein. And this time around, she's kidnapped Franklin Richards for a reason, because we are introduced to this character right here. Well, first of all, he's a normal-looking dude, and that is Nicholas Scratch, who has maybe some ties to Agatha herself. This book is full of ties to Agatha, and there is a reason why she ended up kidnapping the baby, or Franklin Richards, why Nicholas wants Franklin and his powers. And speaking of powers, that's what this next storyline is. From the Fantastic Four, we have the return of Nicholas, and this is when Franklin is possessed. And we do have Agatha kind of jumping in there and helping out, because we need somebody of her caliber to help out whenever, you have a dark demon possessing your child. All right, now the reason why we have this cover. So up until this point, and even during here, The Midnight Suns was a limited series that came out a couple years ago. As a matter of fact, it's been released in a trade paperback. I think this might have been a video game. I'm not sure. This trade came out last year, and I think this miniseries came out in 2022. So we do have some new villains in here, and this is your team-up book. It starts off at the Strange Academy. We have this villain that has shown up, and there is dark magic in the air. So now it's up to, speaking of magic, Ileana Rasputin, Wolverine, Blade, Nico Minoru, and the new, I think this is Spirit Rider is what they end up calling her. But I think during this time it was Ghost Rider. Now, this is when Agatha does try to protect some of the students of the Strange Academy. And this is when it's revealed how she had something to do with this creature in the past. And it has something to do with this young lady named Karina. And there's a lot of ties to that. So I'm glad that this is collected in here, because I feel like this is a big, strong story that I don't think it got a lot of spotlight, because I remember so many of my viewers asking me, when did Agatha Harkness become young? Are they trying to make her like the WandaVision character? Or I guess the new Agatha Harkness show. But this is the story that it happens in. So by the ending of this, you'll see some flashbacks of her in her youth and Karina trying to fight off this demon, and how this demon has come back and has wiped away all of humanity. And that is Valtor right there. And is he the one that's really pulling the strings? But by the end of this, and I don't think this is a spoiler at all, this is where we get Agatha Harkness. Now, she is changed throughout the book. It doesn't happen until the final issue. And you can find out how it happens and what she had to do to become this young again. So again, this book has 224 pages and retails for $29.99. And in the back, we do have some variant covers, but mainly the variant covers to the Midnight Suns, including a young Agatha Harkness there. But that is why she looks the way that she does later on. Last but not least is Deadpool Epic Collection Johnny Handsome. Surprised they didn't go with Tom Cruise. But anyway, this is the latest Epic Collection in the classic Deadpool era. And this is volume 5. And this book has 488 pages and retails for $44.99. We do have your list of creators. Mainly this is the Christopher Priest run of Deadpool, though. Just going to go ahead and say that. But you also have people like Fabian Nicieza, Chris Claremont, Evan Dorkin, Joe Kelly, Eric Stevenson, Rob Liefeld. And then you have Walter McDaniel, Paco Diaz doing a lot of the artwork with Jimmy Calafiore. And then your inkers over here like John Holdridge and Mark McKenna. Coloring by Gina Going and Shannon Blanchard, and then your letters like Chris Alepolis and Brad K. Joyce. We do have this material from Wolverine 99. This is Annual 99. So this does collect Wolverine Annual 99 or material from Wolverine Annual 99. Also Deadpool 34 through 45, Black Panther 23, Wolverine 154 to 155, Heroes Reborn Remnants, and Fight Man #1. Again, book has 488 pages. And I said earlier that it did have the entirety of Christopher Priest's run on Deadpool, and that it does. But first, Wolverine and Deadpool team up to go and fight these ancient werewolves. There's a little bit of the Contest of Champions 2 in here. It didn't state that it was collecting this, but there is some material from, I think, issue number 7, if I'm not, yeah, this one right here, the fight against Daredevil, and then the Hulk in here. There's also some material from Gambit, issue number 7, which is where the Fabian Nicieza stuff comes in. But here we go with Deadpool issue number 34. So this is right after the Joe Kelly run of Deadpool is done. This is when Christopher Priest and Paco Diaz come in and start telling these particular stories of Deadpool. Deadpool, again, is a merc with a mouth, so people are hiring him to go and kill villains or sometimes superheroes. And we do get a lot of guest stars through here, especially towards the very beginning. But what ends up happening, why this book is called Johnny Handsome, is because he does get hired by Loki to go and steal Thor's hammer. And this one here probably has some of the most humorous parts about the book. It does have a different tone than that of Joe Kelly's run or even Fabian Nicieza's type of storytelling. But it's still goofy, and there's a lot of, I mean, it's different, but there's still a lot of immature jokes. I mean, but we're talking about Deadpool, so that's just the way that he's written. But I do like the fact that there's a little bit of a twist here. And the twist is that Loki ends up cursing him with this handsome face, which is where the name Johnny Handsome came from. He looks a lot like the actor Tom Cruise. THOM. CRUZ Cruise. Not to be confused with that other guy from the movies like Mission Impossible. There is something that ends up happening here where he gets to move in with Titania and the Constrictor, and they get hired to go and do things by the Taskmaster. Taskmaster ends up sending Deadpool to space, where he ends up having a team up with none other than the main man himself. And of course, I'm talking about, where is he? There he is, Dirty Wolf. Thought I was going to say Lobo, right? But obviously it's Lobo. The guy rides a motorcycle. He's got his face hidden behind there, and he speaks just like our main man. I appreciated that crossover. Now, Titania has a little bit of a secret that I don't want to spoil what happens. This is, of course, an homage to the Larry Hama Real American Hero silent issue, and it's done in a really good way. This is actually written by, I think it's Glenn Hurling. Jimmy Calafiore doing the artwork in here. But if you've read that Snake Eyes silent issue, you kind of know what to expect here. And here's Dirty Wolf again. Corsair to Starjammer showing up. And then there's the crossover with Black Panther. This is also the time when Christopher Priest was writing stories at on Black Panther. So we have Akebe that shows up, the Reverend Michael Akebe, and hires Deadpool to go and steal Killmonger's cat. And that's where this particular crossover happens. And then the Avengers get involved. And again, during this time, he's handsome. Now, if you've been reading Deadpool, you know that doesn't last forever, but it's fun while it lasts. We have the 2 issues of here. Rob Liefeld coming back to the character of Deadpool, and Eric Stevenson doing the script for this one. But it does pit Wolverine against Deadpool, and there's a reason why Deadpool is working with these Scourge folks, because they have promised him something, and it is something really important, and he's going to do whatever it takes, even though he has to go and fight Wolverine to get what he wants. And Rob Liefeld again coming back for those particular issues. This is the this is the Heroes Reborn stuff. This is the Remnants, which has been collected in the omnibus format. I think this is Joe Kelly writing these stories, and Ethan Van Sciver doing the artwork here. And his art looking a lot different, because this is the way that he was drawing the character of Impulse when Todd the Saga was on that book. And then, of all things, Fight Man #1 is collected in here. Which, what years are we like? 1999. This was a couple of years before this book. I wonder if they just needed to put it somewhere because they couldn't put it in the Deadpool and Cable Epic collections. But it is collected in here, and this is the Dan Slott one-shot. And of course, that character shows up later on in the Cable and Deadpool comics. And that is Deadpool Epic Collection, Volume 5, Johnny Handsome. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are currently picking up, which ones you are eyeing that you have been wanting to check out, and you're hoping that they do come out in a thicker trade or even a omnibus one day, or if you're just collecting the trade paperback versions. Any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.